Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Garbaugust 2025. This is Criminali's great, beloved BookTube event where we read trash for the month of August. And my Garbaugust has been full of books, but it has been full of weird disappointments. Ordinarily, my disappointment in reading any book that I throw on the pile for the night's reading would be if that book was really bad. But when it comes to Garbaugust, those sorts of things go through the looking glass. And a few of the Garbaugust picks that I have made looking at them, judging them by their surface attributes, assuming they would be bad, turned out to be not bad. Not as bad. Certainly good faith efforts done with an earnest amount of effort on part of the author. An earnest amount of consistency, sometimes fairly good dialogue, sometimes fairly well-realized characters, at least one. And the fact that those books don't succeed, the fact that they don't take off like a bottle rocket, the fact that they do end up being derivative and programmatic and one-dimensional and obviously with some of them with their minds on one particular response in the reader, that doesn't alone make them the kind of trash that I want to talk about for Garbaugust. I want trash that is really trash that knows it's trash where the author is in on it and is not trying their best, or rather they are, but they're trying the best for for non-elevating ends, I guess we could euphemistically say. And that hasn't been happening to me lately. I have been taking recommendations from daily ebook deal sites or from the Amazon algorithm for Amazon Unlimited or whatnot, and I have been getting books where I look at them and I think, all right, well, this is going to be a pile of garbage, and then I read it and think, well, no, not really. I mean, it's not good, but it's not bad in the sense that I want. It's a failed effort. It's not enough talent. And if we're going to start calling that sort of thing trash, you're verging into my territory as a critic rather than Garbaugust territory as just fun readers. I like to occupy both those territories. So I was thinking, for last night's pile, that I would have to break outside the algorithm and find something that I know is garbage, that isn't served up to me and recommended to me, and just read that instead to get my equilibrium back for Garbaugust 2025. But it turned out not to be true. I took one look at the algorithm, at one of its suggestions for last night, and thought, there's no way this thing will have hidden quality anywhere in it. So I tried it, and I was not wrong. So my Garbaugust equilibrium has been restored. The author of this masterpiece is Owen Aubrey. Keep in mind, all these things are pen names. And the book, it's a book in a series. The series is called the Twisted Zoo series. I don't think this is book number 1. I got the strong impression reading it that it wasn't. But this is Seeded by the Sasquatch. So this is the story of a very, very erotically energized intern at Twisted Zoo. His name is Arthur. He is young, he is dumb, and I bet you can finish the rest of that. And he is an intern at the zoo, but often at night or on slow periods. He's been there for a little while, and often at night or on slow periods, he is allowed to just have the place to himself. He doesn't have any of his enigmatic superiors. That was one of the main reasons why I thought this was probably not the first book in the series, is that Arthur's superiors at the Twisted Zoo seem like they have a lot of backstory that I didn't get in this book, or didn't get much of. But as the book opens, the zoo is taking a new delivery, a cross-country delivery by truck. This is not an ordinary zoo. The Twisted Zoo is not an ordinary zoo. It has all sorts of mythical creatures, unicorns and whatnot, which I read that, and I got that impression. That impression is sort of implied in between paragraphs as you read along, and I thought, okay, well then that means that there's no chance whatsoever that an intern would ever be left in charge of the facility all by himself. And then I thought, yes, that is right. That is bad writing. So, I felt like a warm welcome home. Arthur is there to take this delivery. He has only one thing on his mind, and it's not paperwork. Anything that he's just thinking about it, but he's not thinking anything pointed, so to speak. When the truck driver Pete emerges from his cabin to sign off on the delivery of this new delivery to Twisted Zoo, and Pete is gorgeous, and that's all Arthur needs to give a focus to his fixation. And he tells Pete that, well, there's a new enclosure, there's a new paddock that is ready for this delivery. If you let me climb into the cabin with you, I will show you where it is. The whole time, Arthur is thinking about what he'd like Pete to let him do. It's pretty explicit right from the beginning, and it's obvious right from the beginning of this book that Owen Aubrey is not going to leave anything to your imagination, and is not actually going to let you wait very long till your imagination can take a break. Because the thing that Pete is delivering is a Sasquatch. And let's go over briefly what we all learned from any kind of killer animal movie and any kind of movie that's ever been made by Hollywood. Deliveries to zoo or habitat facilities, do those go A, well, just as planned, or B, disastrously wrong? In every movie like that you've ever seen, has it been A or B? In this case, shocker, it's B. And the Sasquatch escapes. But the Sasquatch doesn't have freedom on its mind. It also doesn't have tearing anything limb from limb on its mind. It has one thing in mind, and oddly enough, hopefully enough for the plot, it's pretty much the same thing that Arthur has in mind all the time. He had it in mind with the truck driver, and instead, for a lot of this book, he gets the thing he had in mind from the Sasquatch. I might point out something I'm sure that Owen Aubrey doesn't know. I might point out that there is a tiny whiff of that element in Bigfoot lore, especially in the Pacific Northwest, where the earliest roots of some Bigfoot stories, especially among First Nations people in Western Canada and whatnot, are that not only are these creatures part of nature, but that they are wild humans. Myself, when I go on and on about Bigfoot, and people know that it's a passionate subject of mine, inevitably, once the wine is flowing here at Hyde Cottage, someone will ask, well, what do you think? What do you think? I had a friend here who was fairly well credentialed in the area who said, 2 years ago, said, you cannot possibly think that there is a breeding population of a giant arthropod living in the Pacific Northwest. That is not possible. There are cities everywhere. There's traffic everywhere. There is no chance at all that an animal with a simian intellect would remain hidden. There's no chance that would happen. None. Adolescents, older animals, even if they remained hidden, which wouldn't happen. Oh, you're saying this has been true for 10,000 years at least. Oh, more than that, since the Bering Land Bridge. Even if they could remain hidden, their remains would not remain hidden. What you're saying, you're positing a giant ape species, supposedly now extinct ape species, that not only lives and breeds and migrates with the game and whatnot in the Pacific Northwest and Western Canada, but one that is aware of the dangers that humans pose and stays away from them, and also that cares for and buries its dead. That's a lot. That's a lot of assumptions based on some footprints. Maybe some odd vocalizations, although I myself I've heard thousands of hours of Bigfoot vocalization recordings on YouTube, on the great Art Bell's show, among others. I have never heard anything that wasn't a sound that animals in the woods make. When I watch Bigfoot specials on YouTube, and inevitably they get some camo-garbed, bearded guy saying, I know all the animals in this wood and all the sounds they make, and I ain't never heard anything like that. I always look at the camera, I look at the screen when they say that and say, can't have been much of an outdoorsman. I was never called myself an outdoorsman. I spent a lot of time hiking in the wilderness, including in exactly the area that you're saying is chock-a-block with these things. And I heard those sounds, and I know exactly what makes them. Why don't you know what makes them? Anyway, the First Nations people along the western coast of North America, say that these are wild men. Now, some of those myths and those tribal legends have grown into not wild men, but a wild beast man. But when people sit in this room and ask me what I think the explanation is, what my friend said, you can't possibly think. There's a population of hominids that is just hidden. Because we're not talking about Bigfoot like people always talk about Loch Ness, as if it's just one individual. No, it has to be a breeding population, and one that would live for millennia. And he went on and on in the easy chair. He went on and on about all the reasons why that would simply never happen. Where if that were the case, there would be photographs of these things that are now 100 years old, instead of the one video clip that everybody knows, the Patterson-Gimlin film that's not even 100 years old. He said, and I was nodding the whole time, he said, you showed me this Patterson-Gimlin film. To me, it's obvious it's a guy in a suit. You tell me that no suit technology like that was available when the film was made, and that no one has ever come forward and accurately both reproduced the suit and identified the way to do it. You tell me no one's ever done that. All right, well, that sounds fishy, but either way, you should have 100 video clips like this. And you don't. You have just the one. So he looked at me and said, so what do you actually think? You can't possibly think that. You might love to play around with these theories in your head, but you can't possibly think that. So what do you think? And my strongest candidate, there is no doubt in my mind that this is something and not just nothing. Not hoaxes and not hallucinations. My strongest idea is that it is, in fact, wild humans. That humans go feral in the wilderness. Learn how to live for long periods of time, gradually, if they stay there long enough, maybe if they breed and have descendants long enough, lose any vestige of humanity. It wouldn't take long for that to go away. And that also would inform an element of First Nation mytho-history about Sasquatch or Bigfoot or whatnot that is often repressed by Bigfoot researchers, which is the element of abduction. It's not just that people see these things and sometimes see them fishing or carrying a dead deer on their shoulder or whatnot. It's that a lot of the early stories have the motif of abduction. They are intentionally mimicking the cry of babies in order to lure women into the woods. They're intentionally snatching children. Well, it doesn't make any sense for a giant anthropoid to do that. But it does make sense for a population of feral humans to do that. In any case, for that huge digression, the point that I was trying to make was that the element that is the heart and soul of Seated by the Sasquatch, which is Sasquatch being horny for humans, is rare, but it does crop up in the myth, and I think it points most closely to feral humans. Because the kind of thing that otherwise is described, an animal that's 7 to 10 feet tall, well, very early humans, tens of thousands of years ago, cohabitated a large part of Africa and a large part of Europe with other species of humans. Humans don't like to think that. Some of them find it hard to even think what that means. So you're saying subhumans? No, I'm saying that you, Homo sapiens sapiens, is one species of human. You're the only one remaining because you killed all the others. But once upon a time, there were many others. Different species of humans. And humanity, Homo sapiens sapiens, did cohabitate. They did cohabitate with other species of humans. And a lot of interbreeding happened. A lot of it did. If you were to swab the inside of your cheek and get a really reputable genetics firm to test your DNA, it wouldn't surprise me at all if you had some portion of Neanderthal DNA. That wouldn't surprise me in the least. A lot of interbreeding happened. But interbreeding with animals so morphologically different as an animal that is giant and muscular and hairy and 7 feet to 10 feet tall and humans, that's a lot less likely. That's a lot less likely. What little of there is in actual Bigfoot lore is more than made up for in this book. This book has 100,000 times what you would want. But usually when the morphology is that different, usually the interspecies sexual contact will be violent rape followed by murder. So, it is possible there have been accounts of humans being raped by gorillas, and especially of humans being raped by bonobos, but then killed by them and eaten by them. So, not anything that happens in this book. That's what I'm trying to say. Naturally, when it comes to Sasquatch, I'm full of digressions. This was awful. This was just awful. It was, in that sense, incredibly pleasingly awful. It was a full-blown return to trash, no pun intended. And now I feel like my keel has evened out, and who knows what tonight's trash adventure will be. I can now trust the algorithm again, at least temporarily. But I might want to take out some of the mass market paperbacks that I got for Garbaugust. I've been largely ignoring them. So maybe I'll do that. I don't know. The day is still young, so I will report back tomorrow. Thank you, BookTube.